One of the best things about Oxygen, well, is the price point. Unlike other page builders, it is a lifetime deal. I've been using this for quite a few years, and it is a single fee. You pay it once and you can use it on as many websites as you want. And so that's a real benefit, even if you're just using it on one website.
This is the Business Owners Smashing It Online podcast for entrepreneurs and business owners looking for cool online tools, apps and strategies to make business easy online. My name is Nick Cree and I'm your host. Each episode features a guest expert demystifying the online universe, sharing inspirational ideas and providing tested real-world strategies to help you get the most of what's available online to grow your business today. Don't be a slave to your business, get your business working for you. Subscribe now and get some great content and ideas for you and your business today. Alrighty, well, we're going to move on now to my favorite part in the evening, which is where I get to sit back, relax, learn some stuff and listen to an expert. So tonight we have Corey Dodd, who is going to be talking to us about no-code guide to building a custom WordPress website in Oxygen. So I met Corey back in the days when we were allowed to actually physically meet at a WordPress, or what they call WordCamps. He was a speaker there, amazing designer, really good teacher in terms of what he talks about as well. So you're in for a real treat tonight. And he's going to walk us through the ins and outs of creating a fast, responsive, fully custom WordPress website using a page builder called Oxygen. And he's going to sort of show us what sort of advantages you have using something like this as well too. So Corey, as I say, he's a web designer. He's been in the web design industry for about 25 years. Runs a branding agency called El Creative. He lives in Victoria. Down in Victoria. I know Melbourne, down in Victoria. So,
Geelong, actually.
But he teaches designers and business owners to build custom websites in Oxygen, and he's got a whole course on it as well too. So let's put our hands together and welcome along Corey Dodd.
Yay. All right, I'm going to do a quick screen share here. So let's see what I've got. I'll bring up a couple of things. Hold shift. There we go. That's what it was. So hopefully we're seeing my screen. You can see that, Nick?
See that loud and clear.
Awesome. All right. Well, I don't need to do my intro about me, and that was going to be my intro, but Nick's already done that for me. So so I've been designing for about 25 years. So I want to sort of make that really prominent thing that I'm a designer first. I'm not really a developer. And I've been using a tool called Oxygen and using that to build websites for my clients, essentially, as a designer. So I'm just going to open up Oxygen here. And so you can see the website, and I'll give you a little bit of information about Oxygen. One of the best things about Oxygen, well, is the price point. Unlike other page builders, it is a lifetime deal. I've been using this for quite a few years. And it is a single fee. You pay it once and you can use it on as many websites as you want. And so that's a real benefit, even if you're just using it on one website. It does come in a few different flavors, and that is a basic version, which just lets you build stuff. There is one that allows you to add WooCommerce, and then a level that allows for what we call Gutenberg customization, which is what WordPress uses for its content now. And then there is like an ultimate one that has a few extra features. If you are going to go down this path, I would probably suggest you go for the agency level, just because it has the Gutenberg block builder. And that's something that I utilize quite a lot. It's something that's a part of WordPress of its core now. So it's a part of WordPress's future, so it's worth sort of considering. And the best thing with Oxygen is it really integrates well with Gutenberg. So you can create content in Gutenberg in WordPress natively and have that come into your Oxygen design. Another thing that's great with Oxygen is the speed. So the load times when you're building the sites in Oxygen, and this is one of the reasons that attracted me and so many developers to Oxygen, is because it's very, very clean as far as the code is concerned. The output of code is really, really light, which means that the websites are super fast. I've rebuilt sites that the load speeds were at about 28% in the Google speed tests, and they're getting into the 90s with when they're rebuilt in Oxygen, which is absolutely amazing. That's not doing anything crazy and putting on you know, all this compression. This is essentially out of the box because it is so well, because the code is so clean. All right, now I've got quite a lot to go through here. So what I'm going to actually just do is presume that we've got WordPress installed. I'm not going to take things back to the very, very start. So this is a website that's got WordPress installed. And I've got a couple of plugins in here, which you can see. I've got Oxygen and the one that has the Gutenberg integration. And I've got something called custom post type UI, which allowed me to add a section for projects. I've tried to set up something that's got a little bit of content in here. So if we go into projects here, I've got this set up as if it's a website with some projects, and I do have some pages here. So this is just an introduction to the content that's in WordPress. If I go into a project here and I actually edit a project, you can have a quick look at what's in here. So it's pretty simple stuff. I've just got some text, the heading, and I think there is a photo here. Let's minimize this. There's a featured image for each project. And that's all there is. Now let's have a quick look on the front end now that Oxygen is installed. I've got Oxygen installed. So if I go to the actual front end of the website really quickly, you'll see that basically it does nothing. That's just the content that I've got for the homepage. There's no navigation or anything. And that's because Oxygen removes themes. So it essentially doesn't use a theme, and you can start from scratch. If you're building custom websites, that's really exciting. If you don't want to build custom websites, that can seem really daunting. But I'll quickly show you, when you first install Oxygen, you get this welcome screen, and you can install a blank version of Oxygen, or you can install pre-made websites. It actually has a library. Here they are. This is the library that it comes with. There's probably close to 20 different designs that it has. And you can essentially pick one of these, install it, and you can preview these. So this is one of them, for example, and all the pages and everything come in. You've got all of that content, all of the functionality. It all comes across into your website, and then you can start to customize it and tweak from there. I'm specifically excited about building custom websites from scratch. And so this is something that I would use or design for a client. So this is just an example site, and I'm going to base what I'm going to try and do tonight. I've only got an hour, so I'll see how much stuff I can get through. I'm going to try and highlight some of the features with Oxygen, with building out some of this stuff. And I've exported some of these images, and I've already got them in Oxygen. So I'm going to close this one down. I don't need this one. And oops, I'll go back to full screen. I don't need this one. And I can go to a blank install because I'm going to start with things super, super clean and basic. So now if I go into Oxygen, we've got a few settings. I'm not going to go through all of these right now, but there's some really basic sort of settings around caches, the sorts of fonts and stuff that you might want to load if you want to load custom fonts. It does come connected to Google Fonts, so you can use any font that Google has, which is great. But the first thing we want to do is actually go into templates, and there's nothing there. So I'm going to create a template. I'm going to call this, I have a naming convention, and one refers to if something is an actual core template that's using content, and then I'll use two if it's a reusable part. And I'll explain reusable parts in a minute. So I'm going to call this inside page, and we can publish this. We've got a few settings outside of Oxygen before we even get inside. And this is to say how we want this template to be used. So you could actually say single pages. You could specify a page, like you could create this for an about page or for your home page, or different types of pages like posts or your media pages, etc. But there is a section here where you can say catch all. And that means that every single page is going to use this template. And then if we want to have pages that use different templates, we can actually put a priority here, which is more than 0. If we give it a priority of 1, that type of page will grab that template. It sounds confusing, but once you get into it, it's fairly straightforward. And the other great thing is that when you're on a page, so if I go into a page just really quickly, and I go into a page, if we edit this, you have the ability to switch templates down here. So it's grabbing the inside template because I've created that. If I had multiple templates, you can actually force this to grab a totally different template and a totally different look. Okay, so I've created this template, and if I go into edit with Oxygen, I'll be greeted with the actual Oxygen interface, and there's a fair bit of stuff to go over here. I'm probably going to breeze through this fairly quickly, so forgive me if there's a lot going on. So this is the blank screen, essentially your canvas for your website, and we've got a few controls. Along the top is this first part here is essentially what page we're previewing. I've got no content displaying in this yet, but you can preview different pages through Oxygen. And then we have the ability to add different sections. So if we click add, you'll see all of this stuff opens up. And these are some of the pre-built things that we may want to use. So these are just really, really basic things like a heading, text, a section. We've got things like buttons. But if we've installed a library, one of those design sets, you can actually get through all of the design sets here. So if we had a quick look at some of these, you can see all of these parts, and you can just drag and drop these that are already made into your design or into your website. But again, I'm going to focus on this custom stuff. So I'm going to add something like a section. And if I add that, you'll see that I've just got this purple outline that's showing us what's going on. Now, if I open up this part on the top section, it gives me the structure. So if I add, say, another section, you can see that section's added in here. I can rename these. And this part here where I went to add on the left-hand side, now that I've added something, if I click that, it gives me the ability to style it. And it's consistent no matter what. So if I put into this section, now I've got this section selected. If I put in, say, a heading, we've got the same options. You can go into advanced and you can set stuff like the colors that you want for the text, etc. So I'm going to look at some stuff that are global settings. And I think this is really exciting with Oxygen. It allows us to create global settings and then change this stuff site-wide. So if I bring up our settings here, manage settings, and I go to page settings, and I go to global settings, I can set things like the types of fonts that I want to use. And I think for my headings, I wanted railway, and it's already changed it. And if I want for my normal text, I want to have, I think, Poppins. So this is fonts that I've designed. You can actually just test these out. And also anytime you've got text, if you wanted to use a different font, you can actually load something different as well. So it connects to, as I've already said, Google Fonts. So I wanted railway there. Okay, so that's our global settings for fonts, and we can do the same things with colors. We can set some global colors, and these are something that you do when you first set up a site, but then once you get into it, you're probably not going to think too much about this. I'm going to go back to my design here and grab a few things like this color. And I know I'm going fast here, but I'm going to call this highlight and just paste this color in. I'm going to go back, get this dark color in and add a color base. And essentially what I'm doing here is building up a library of colors that we're going to use throughout the site, which will keep things really consistent and just means that we can get to them. And also it means that later on, if we wanted to change a color, we can go back and it's going to change these colors everywhere on the site, which is really, really handy. I'm going to call this light. I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add a color for white just because I'm going to use it often. So now that I've added these, actually that's not a pure white. So now that I've added these, if I go anywhere where my colors show up, I can actually select these and my colors now show up. So I can set these as the background and set that as our text color, for example. So you can see that using global styles is really, really handy. We can set global styles for things like how wide we want our pages to be, think like what we want our links to be, what colors we want, our certain breakpoints, all sorts of stuff, which is really, really handy. All right, I'm going to quickly go back to the design. I'm going to have a look at this page here and just see what I've got going on. So I've got a section where I've got my logo, I've got some navigation, some social icons, and I've got a heading area. So this heading area here, I'm going to remove this background color, or I could leave a dark background color in here. and I can go into the advanced section, into the background, and now I can put a background image in, which I've already uploaded. I go select image, and I can make this fit so it's cover. You can see that I've got a background image already fitting in there, and I can actually just drag this space around that heading. I can just make this taller just by dragging this around. So I can kind of set this. If I wanted to be really fussy, I can go into size and spacing and actually set specific padding. So I might say 150 and 150 and get it precise, or I could even set specific heights. So we've got that heading, that background in there. We want to change that text. Now, something that's really great with Oxygen is that we can insert what we call dynamic data, which sounds really complicated, but this is where the no code and the customization really become important, because this is the sort of thing that you may have needed code for in the past. If we want to have this as a template and we want every single page to be picking up whatever the page title is and changing dynamically, we can actually go to insert data, and then we can go to something like title and insert that title. And now we can see that that says Growling Frogs, which is the title of our project. And if I select different things, you'll see that that's actually changing that content on the fly, no matter what page I pick. And that would be replicated on the front of the website too. If I click save, and then I go to the website on the front end, it should show the home page, and you can see that that's being reflected right there. How's everyone going? Is that going okay so far? It's fairly fast. I know I'm gonna keep going through this stuff. So that's the basis of I guess adding some of the stuff to Oxygen. I'm going to add something called inner content, and how I explained before that WordPress uses something called Gutenberg, and when you create pages, you can just add the text in. It's basically like using Word. You can just type in text. So if we click add and we add in something called the inner content, that's putting there, and that's grabbing all the text from that page. Now it's put it in the wrong spot, but I can grab this here and drag it into that section that I wanted to go into. And you can see now it's moved that into the section. So I've got a few things happening. It's starting to look a little bit more like a website. What I'm going to do is add another section, and I'm going to classify this one as my footer. I'll give this a background color. I think that's what the background color had in there of the footer. No, it's a dark, it's the mid gray. So it's this mid gray, and it has a dark gray above it. But unlike this, the stuff that we've built so far, I'm going to right click on this one, and I'm going to make this a reusable part. So I'm going to call this to and footer. And this means that we can access this anywhere in other templates. So if we created a specific template for the home page, for example, we could add that into the home page. And then anywhere that we update this reusable part, it's going to update across the whole website. Now you can create things that aren't reusable parts and they just update locally. For example, this heading here, this section with the background image, that's not something I've made as a reusable part. So if I create a homepage template, it's not going to come across. So one thing, of course, that we're going to have to add is a navigation area. So I've got something called the header builder. If I click this and add the header builder in, I'll drag this up to the top. And you can see it's got essentially a few sections in here where we can put some of our content. So I'm going to actually add the logo, add an image, and from this I can browse and grab the logo. And I'm going to want to have some navigation. So it does come with menus already set up. So if I go menu, there's actually a couple of different options. We've got a pro menu and a standard menu. I'm going to use the pro menu. It allows for a little bit more customization. So if I go to insert that, you'll see it's put it in the same place, and I'll just drag this so it's over to the right. And already I've got something in there that kind of looks a little bit more like a website. And the pro menu just comes down to a little bit of styling. And also the header builder has some really cool features. So one feature is that if we select the header builder, you can see in this left-hand area, we can do a few things like make it sticky, which means that when we scroll down the page, it will stick up to the top. So I'll actually save this, refresh. I'll make this so we can have a quick look. Scroll down and you can see that that menu is now reappears in front of everything. Now, it doesn't have a background color, so we can see through. That's not great, but we can fix that in the settings. Another setting that it has is to actually go out of the sticky, is to overlay it over our header. So if we go to overlay, we can say always, and now it's in front of that image and it starts to look a lot more like the design that I had set up, or the idea that I had for the website, starting to look a lot more like this with that floating over the top of our photo there. Another thing is that it's full width. So if I go into advanced size and spacing, I can control that width. So at the moment it's set to the default, which is the page width, but I can say full width and everything goes out to the edge. Now that image, I might want to do a few things just quickly, just so this looks a little bit better, which is just add a little bit of padding, etc. around this, just so it's not so tight. You can change the size to anything that you want specifically. I might make it a little bit smaller, for example, like 200 pixels. Oops, that's larger, 150 pixels. Or I might leave it as is because it actually was about right, but I'm just showing that setting there. So I've deleted that out there and we've got our logo set up. We've got our menu, which, well, isn't perfect, but we've got something there. So if I click the menu, anytime you click something, the left-hand area becomes the area where we control the settings for that. So we can go into the desktop area, for example, and we can change stuff like the typeface that it has, things like the color. So I want to have this as white. I want to make that font weight just not so heavy, just a little bit lighter. I'm going to want to have some spacing between these so it's not all cramped up. So if I add some spacing between these, maybe 20 pixels between them, and I might put that on every single edge, and we can see now that I've got that menu and it's starting to look a little bit better. This reference that there's a drop down here and I can change the settings on the drop down if I want. And I've also got things like the hover. So on the background, when we hover over this, we can change the background. And we can see that that's actually changing color now that we hover over that. Now I'm going to click save and just go to the front end of the website so we can see what's going on. Now this isn't a real menu. I haven't actually created a menu for the site yet. And this is a WordPress feature. This is something that I love, and not all page builders work the same way, but you can actually go into into WordPress and create as many menus as you want. So I'm going to call this main menu. Click create menu. I can actually add any page here. So most recent, click add to menu. Should be able to add the home, add to menu. And then all I can do is drag these and drop them into whatever order I want. Probably contact details last, projects near the second last. Click save menu. And I'm pretty sure that Oxygen is smart enough to know that now I've added a menu to use that menu. Yes, it's grabbed that menu automatically. Now, if you have more than one menu in this menu section under Pro Menu, we actually have the ability to select what menu we're looking at. Because I've changed that, I'm going to click save and refresh just to make sure it's grabbing that information. But you can already see that really quickly, we've got the basis of, well, a website starting. And just similarly to how I created that global reusable part for the footer, I'm going to do the same here with the navigation. And then I'm going to actually jump into creating a homepage template so we can see how that works. So again, I'm going to open up that structure, open up the header builder, and we can see this Pro menu. And as I mentioned before, now we've added a main menu, we can select that. But if there was multiple menus, we could also specify which one we wanted to load there. All right, I'm going to click save. And now what I'm going to do is actually jump out of Oxygen here. And I'm going to create a new template by going back into the dashboard, going to templates, and you can see here what's loading up now is the inside template and that reusable footer. Actually, I totally forgot to make a reusable part for the navigation. So I'm going to quickly open that up again. And while that's loading, I'm going to start to make the basis of the homepage template. So I'm going to call that one homepage. And with this one, I want to make sure that this is our front page because that's what WordPress refers to as the homepage. I'm going to give that a priority of 1, which means that it's more important than 0. So it's going to overwrite that catch-all setting. So if I click publish now, that's set up and ready to go. I can jump back into this inside template and just make sure I click this little icon here and go to make reusable. Call this to navigation and click OK. So I'm going to click save and then close this one down. So I've not done a ton of stuff in the inside page, but I've got enough so that it's actually starting to take shape. And so now I can go into this homepage template and start to add some stuff specifically to the homepage. All right. Well, while that's loading, I'll have a quick look at the design and see what things differ on this homepage. All right, so I've got this sort of key feature text here. I've got a few things like this intro text. So I'll get some of these things set up so we can start to see how we can grab different things from the reusable library and mix that with new sections or new layouts. So first thing I'm going to do is click add. And I'm going to actually go down to reusable, put in the navigation, and you can put it in as single, which means that it references the version in the library, or editable, which means it disconnects it from the library, and it means that you can actually break it and start to play with it without overriding the global version of this reusable part. So I'm going to put in the navigation. I'm going to put in the footer as a single, and then I need to put in a section. And again, I'm going to just change the order of this. So this one is going to be our background for the homepage. So I'll put in a background image. I'll browse for the different background image that we use on the homepage. And this one, I'm going to change the height a little bit. So I'm going to also, you can control how that background, where it's placed. So I'm going to change the position here a little bit. So left 50%. And top 50%. So we're looking at the middle part of that image. And then I can change that height of this. So I want this to be fairly tall. I'm going to make this a percentage of the window. So I can go to view height and I can say something like 70% of the actual window. So now we've got that set up. I can put in my heading inside this section, add heading. I can copy and paste that text. That's not looking great, but we've got it in there. There's a few things we probably want to do. We'll change the text so that it's white. And we probably want to change the text as well. So we want to change that font weight. We might need to do this on the heading itself. So if we go to the heading, I'll just have a quick look what this was like. It's quite light and quite big. So I'm going to make this so it's a lighter font, so about 200, and it's quite large. So I'm going to set the font size to say 50 pixels, and I'm going to change also the line height under typography, so it's a little bit tighter. I'll bring it down to say 1.2, and then in this section I can do a couple of things like center that text in the middle of the page and also center it in the middle of the height of that. So centered vertically and horizontally. So I've got that set up, and then I can do a few things like specifically change the colors of these by going to adding this grouping around it and changing the color. So if I do that to each one of these, oops, I haven't done that properly. What I can do is add this little grouping around it, change the color, add that grouping, and change the color. Now, I think there was some text underneath this as well, and a little line above the text. So if I wanted to add that line, I could put something in like a div and create that line. Just going to make sure that that section is loading this. There we go. So that it stacks vertically. So you can stack things vertically and horizontally. So I'm going to stack it vertically. I'll give it a background color, and I'm going to set its height and width. So size and spacing, I'm actually going to give this a height of, say, 2 pixels. That's not the right thing at all. So I'm going to click undo. I've not selected the actual div that I've got here. That's what I want to change the color of. I'm going to go into background. I'll do that again. Background color. I'm going to set the size and spacing. So the height is 2 pixels and the width might be 100 pixels, maybe a little more, 180. And what I'm going to do is add some spacing above this. So maybe 40 pixels and 40 pixels. And then I can add that text underneath there with another heading. Just change that heading type. And I'm going to copy and paste this text. If you know the content you want, you don't need to copy and paste anything. You can start to type away, which may save you a lot of time. So I don't want that in the div. I'm going to just move these around quickly. And again, that text is heavier than I want. So I'm going to go into typography. Actually, this is where something like global styles comes in very handy. I'm going to click save and go into these settings and go into the global styles. And this design, the headings aren't heavy. They're not thick like this. So I can actually go into this and change the weight of the styles of the headings. And that would change every single heading that I've got here. And if I click save, for example, and go back to this where I've got home and it's quite thick. If I go to about, you can see it's already changed that for us. So that's a great example of a good use of the global styles there. And if I go back to home, you'll see it's starting to pick up the new homepage that we've started to design. So I know we've been through a lot already. I'm really, really rushing this. And so I appreciate you if your brains are melting a little bit, but you can kind of already see the power of being able to create your own templates and say, in this situation, use this template. We've talked about landing pages with Nick already, and it could show the power of just being able to create a specific landing page and just use that wherever you want, or create a custom landing page. You can even create landing pages where the content, you can get in there and edit the content without it updating everything globally, or you can set things up so they're global as well. So that's super handy. All right, I'm going to add in a few more things. I'll get rid of this structure here, add section. I'll put this above the footer. And what else did I have in there? I think there's a couple of sections. Okay, we've got our latest projects, which is actually quite interesting. I'll try and get to that so we can really have a look at the power of creating some dynamic content there. So background color is dark. I think it's dark. Or is it the mid tone again? Yes, it's the darker one. So we've got that dark content there. And I think it actually has a background on it, which is a pattern. I'm going to go in here and browse and find that pattern and just make sure that it's set to manual and make it 100% wide. I've got this little pattern here, and this is where that the feature projects show up. So in a minute, what I'll do is I'll add something called a repeater, and we can create an actual really customized loop for custom content there. But while I'm here, what I might do is actually go into this here and do something where I put in what we call columns. And you can see when I click columns, it gives me the ability to add them, the predefined specifically. These are essentially shortcuts. You could make your own columns if you wanted to, but using this column layout, what I'm doing here is making this 50-50. And if I go back to my design here, I can get stuff like this heading and put that in one column. Oops, add heading. And then get the content and put that in there as well. So add text. And you can see I've got the basis of this happening. A few tweaks again, change that line height to 1. Might have some space between these two. And there was, again, a what we call a little divider here. And now I'm going to introduce you to, I guess, another trick, which is something called creating classes. And these are things that we can reuse multiple places on the website, the things that we style and want to style them exactly the same way again. So if I give this a class of divider, I add that class. The styles that I created originally were placed onto what we call an ID. So I'm going to copy these, paste them onto that class, delete them from the divider, make sure I've got the background in there. I've deleted stuff too quickly. The height was 2 and the width I think was 180. What have we got? No padding. Nope. 2. It's not doing what I want. Height of 2. There we go. Then I want to go to this margin here, size and spacing. Add some margin above this, 20 and 20. And now if I wanted to add a divider in here, I could do the same thing by adding a div and giving it the same class that I had before of divider. If I start typing that in, it will show up. For some reason, the height setting isn't working perfectly. I believe it would work on the front end. I might click save and have a look on the front end just to see if that's doing what I want. Yes, it is showing up perfectly on the front end, but that's essentially how you use classes. You could do this for a heading, for example, where you set them with certain colors or certain sizes, and you could say main heading in any situation and just use that same style. All right, got a couple more things here before I get on to this part where I add the dynamic content. I'm just going to change this a little bit where I add some space above this. I'm going to add an image, and I'll browse and find one of these placeholders here like this. Now, I'm not going to do this exactly the same with the 2 images, but what I can do is show you a couple of quick tricks with the spacing. I can put, say, a negative margin on there of, say, 50 pixels. And you can see that's slightly overlapping, like what I want to do on my design. And then I think it had a soft shadow on there. So I'm going to go into effects and I'm going to add a quick shadow. And maybe just change that so it's not really 100% see-through. And then I can do things like saying how far I want this offset. I want this inserted. So now I've got a shadow. I want it to go the other way, minus, say, 20 pixels and down 20 pixels. Now if I click save, we've got this section, which it's similar. It's not perfect. I am trying to get through this pretty quickly, but it's starting to look similar to this layout that we've got here. And I am rushing purely because I wanted to show how to do some of this dynamic content, which is actually really exciting. So I'll go back into this page here. I would add a heading in here. I'll change the color so we can see it. And I'll make sure I get that text. I'm not going to do this one super perfectly. I'm just going to get this in here so I can start looking at the next area. So I've got our section here. Center this. All right, now the next thing I want to add in is something called a repeater. And this is actually really, really powerful. Before I mentioned I had some projects set up. Now what the repeater does is it essentially queries some content that we may have created. So if you've created a blog post and you wanted to have a blog page, for example, you could use this. But then what about if you wanted to use those blog features somewhere else? Maybe you want to show that in a footer on a specific page, or you wanted to say similar blog posts and you want to create a custom repeater. That would be really, really hard if it wasn't already baked into the theme that you're using. But this gives us the ability to create our own query, and then it will repeat that content as much or as little as we like. So I'm going to say this is a custom query, and I'm going to say this is for a specific post type. No, it's am I filtering? Taxonomies. It should be under here. Categories. Nope. What is that? Post type. Here we go. Post type of our projects. And now that I've said that I want this to have a loop essentially that repeats itself for however many projects I have. There's 4 projects, and you can already see it's created 4 copies of something there. So what I can do is in this first one, I can set this up exactly how I want. So I can put in, for example, an image, and I can browse the content of that image and not actually stick a specific image, but pick image data. So pick the featured image. If I go insert, you can see that it's grabbing every single photo from each of these projects that I've got in my project library. And I can add stuff like the heading, and again, change this to white so we can see it. And that would be dynamic content. So we probably want this to be saying the name of that project. So title, insert. Oop, there we go. Click save. And I might actually just minimize some of these things here. And in this repeater, I'll actually add a button. So button, and I would have that button go to view project. So view project, and that link, again, we want this to be our dynamic link. So we can go to the permalink, and it's going to know now that all of this content is specific for each one of these projects. Now, I've not styled this perfectly. I will change it a little bit just quickly so it looks a little bit better. Here we go. I'll do a couple of things as well so it's not full width. If I go to advanced size and spacing, I'll make this say 48 pixels wide, 48% wide. No, that's not doing what I want. Save that. I'm just going to go to the front end, and we should see it's actually getting all of that information of each one of our projects. So it's actually getting it and loading it. It's not looking like how we want. I can change those settings, but it's already set up and linking to these projects that I've created. It's getting the content. I haven't set it up to grab the specific images. We haven't set a template for that, but you can already see that it is starting to come together. I'm going to change some of these things with the design. So if I go to this repeater, I'm going to make sure this is set up with the layout, horizontal. I'm going to allow this to be multi-lined. I'm going to make sure this is a width of, I think, 48%. And then if I set this repeater to give a little bit of spacing around between them, I can say layout and just stretch these between either side. Now this div, I'm going to want some space underneath it. Again, this isn't perfect. It's not exactly like the design. But if I click save now and go to that front end, we should have them all lined up. Now the rest of this is just tweaking the styling. It's not quite like the actual design, like what I want, but you can see I've got the basis of this stuff already set up, and it's pulling that information from a whole dynamic section of the website, which before this would have been, before Oxygen, I would have really struggled to do this without needing some custom code. So that is really, really powerful. Now, the last thing I'm going to do, rather than fixing up those areas, is I'm going to look at some of these things like the reusable parts. So if I go into this reusable part here, I'm going to open this here, open that footer. If I click open, what it will do is start to load this in. And then I'm going to show you how I can add this content in on the fly, and it will update everything. So again, if I just reference my design, I'm pretty sure I've got, yeah, the logo, some text. And I've also got another menu there, but I'm not going to add all of this right now. I'm just going to show you the power of creating some of this stuff when it's in this repeater. So I'll add a div, I'll add an image, and I'll browse for that same logo. And I'll add some text underneath this. I'll make sure this is white. And then that div, I don't want this to be super wide, so I'll just make it something like the width 30%. Click save. And now if I'm going to refresh this, if I scroll to the bottom, that's been updated on this homepage. But then if I go to any page here, like about, that's updated everywhere on the site because we've used that as a reusable part. So if we start to set up the site correctly, it becomes really, really quickly to build stuff out. I mean, I think I've probably spent 50 minutes, and I know I've been going really quick, and I have done this before, but I have been trying to capture as much of this in one setting as I could. I know I've got one last thing that I'd like to show you before I kind of wrap this up, and that is the mobile settings. So I'm going to go back to this page here. We all know how important mobile phones are and people being able to view our work on different screens. What Oxygen does, which is amazing, is it gives us the ability to view this on different screens. So this is classified as all devices, which is just basically the maximum width. And now we can preview it on what it would look like at 1120 or below. And we can scroll down and go, actually, that still looks pretty good. We'll leave that. Then we can go to a smaller size. What does it look like at less than that? And because we use columns, these actually fall into place automatically. You can see that actually looks not too bad. I presume when we get too small, these are side by side next to each other, it's going to actually break. So we'll see what happens if I go smaller again. That's still fine. We're actually looking pretty good, but this might be the sort of thing where you start to change font sizes for different screens. But lastly, I'll go to this small one, and all of that stuff is fine, but this here, that's probably getting too tight. So that might be something that you just change the layout for this option. We go and have them go all in line, for example, go to the repeater and make sure this layout goes to vertical. And then with this div, we'd make this go to say 100% wide. Click save. And now if we viewed this on a mobile phone, it would change the layout just like that for that breakpoint or for that device size. But all our other device sizes are exactly how we wanted them before. So perfect for the desktop. So it makes it really, really easy to quickly review stuff, how things are going to be on different types of devices, and just tweak them accordingly, even though it does a lot of the hard work for us ourselves. All right, I'm going to click save. I don't need to keep this work, but I'm going to click save out of habit. And then I'm just going to go back to this and just say thank you for everyone that was watching. If you do want to take the course, I have a full course. It's a fairly extensive course. There's 9 modules. It's 8 main modules and a bonus module. It takes people from the very, very start of getting started with Oxygen, but doing the same sort of thing as what we're doing there, where we start with a custom design and build it to an actual complete website. We build every single template and we build all of the sections together. And as a part of that, I actually supply the design and people are free to use that. And people that have been actually using that design and customizing it, I do a little tutorial at the start on how we can take that design file and customize it. And people have done some amazing work with the template that I've got. So it is 25% off. So that's it. Hopefully that's been helpful. And thank you for everyone taking the time out. And I'm going to hand this back to Nick.
Awesome. Excellent. That was a whistle stop of Oxford. You did well. That was awesome. Actually, I was sort of kept up with all of that. We had a couple of comments from people saying, is this going to be available on a replay as well? Fortunately, it is. So if you want to watch it again and go through it again, it will be up on the Smash Go YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon. It'll be, so you can go through and see that. But again, what Corey has shown us tonight is really just a small part of the Oxygen Builder, but really hopefully you got an idea of what is achievable with it. And the program that, or the course he's put together, which I've got as well and have started having a look at, is pretty awesome actually. So you really do come away with a complete site.
It was a difficult task to actually work out how much to show, because I didn't want to take things too slowly and not show everything that was possible. But I didn't also want to, that was pretty much as fast as I could go. So I was trying to show how much stuff we could do. And I fully understand if people found that hard to follow. But in the course, it really is really well paced out. I think I said it's 9 modules. There's about 10 lessons in each, and some of them are like 20 minutes long. It's a lot of content. It's taken a lot of work to get it done, and the feedback has been amazing. So.
Yes, it has been too. So I know some people have taken the course who are developers, in fact, and they absolutely loved it because it made their work so much easier, a lot quicker, and and it really works for anyone at any skill level. All right. So someone's asked, what does the course cost? Good question.
It is $200. It's a global market, so US dollars is what I've chosen to go with, and it is 25% off. So what's that? Is that $150? I don't know.
There you go. Yeah,
I'm a designer, not a mathematician, so I can't work out percentages.
Dollars off, 25%. So yeah, 150.
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Oh, I can't remember either. Work it out. So I've got a coupon code there. If you do want to use it, the coupon code is SMASH. We've got a link for it as well. Maybe drop the link into.
Yeah, I'll drop a link to the course, and I'm just linking to the actual page itself on the website that talks about the course if people are after more information. But if they're interested in purchasing it, if they click the buy now, just use the code there, SMASH, and you'll get that discount. And I'll leave that for February and March, just in case anyone catches the replay. So once again, I wanted to thank you, Nick, for having me on, and everyone who managed to follow along there.
Excellent. All righty. Well, hopefully there was sort of enough there ready to whet your appetite and get you started. But certainly it's a very, very powerful page builder, but easy to use once you get into it as well too. All righty. Well, before you jump in and buy a course, we have a prize tonight as well too, don't we, Corey?
Yep.
So, and that prize is what is it?
It's the entire course. It's the actual course. Yeah. So it's $200 value. So anyone who's watched that and went, I would like to do that course and I'd like to do it for free, well, this is a good opportunity to do that. So,
all righty. Anyone want that? Hands up who wants it. Anyone else with their hands up? Well, we can take you out. All right. We've got a special way of drawing this as ever. We have our wheel of names. So everybody's name is in here. And remember, you have to be here to win. So anyone's left, we haven't pulled any names out, so we're just going to spin the wheel. If anyone's left, then we redraw it again. So because there's a few of us here, if it's you that's drawn out, feel free to unmute yourself and say, I'm here, just so that I don't go and redraw it again. All right, drum roll, please, and let's give this a spin. Our lucky winner is... Nick Kelly. Awesome. And yes, that is his real name.
Amazing.
All right. You here, Ned? Let's just see if he's on screen. Oh. He's going to kick himself if he's not here. Yes, he is. I can see Ned's here. He's not unmuting himself, which means he's probably gone to the loo or something like that.
Hey, mate.
Oh, good day, Ned. How you going there?
Hey, good night.
Perfect. Congratulations there, Ned. That's all yours.
Great. So I'll need to get Ned. Ned, I'll need to get your details somehow. Can I get them from you, Nick?
Yeah, we'll organise that. So either
Lovely.
Ned, you can drop your details in the chat, but we'll connect you up so later tonight or tomorrow, and then you guys can sort it out between yourselves.
Perfect.
Excellent. All right. And if anyone else wants to carry on with the course, the link is in chat. So remember to save the chat as well too. But before you do that, we actually have a couple more prizes. So once you've got Oxygen and your website installed, you need somewhere to host it. So we had Nick Bryant, who was on the call today as well too. He is with a company called Wordify, and they do hosting. So let me just drop into chat their hosting company, and they've kindly offered 1 year's worth of hosting for anyone or for two people in that wants to build a site or move their site or whatever. So that's worth, I think, $96, I think, for that particular plan. Yeah, he said it was $96. It's the Unity hosting plan. So we've got a couple of those to give away. He's just ducked off to go and put some kids to bed. So he said that we can draw this for anyone that's here. So anyone needs some hosting? Well, you will do, won't you? All right. Well, let's draw this. Look, if you don't need it, you can always gift it to someone else. Otherwise, it's a really good opportunity. They're a great little hosting company too as well. All right. First one is we've got Russ McCurdy. You hear Russ? Where is he on screen? Yeah, I can see Russ on screen.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hey, Russ, how you going there?
Good, mate, good.
Congratulations, mate. So you've got the one of the hosting packages there. So we'll hook you up with the guys there, with Nick there, and you can sort that out between yourselves.
Yep, will do. Thank you very much. Very grateful.
Fantastic. All right, we've got one more from Nick as well with the hosting. So let's draw that.
Come on, Diego.
Almost, Diego. It's Lee. All right. Have we got Lee in the room here? All right. I think Lee may not be in the room. 3, 2, 1. Lee has disappeared. All right. We'll draw it one more time. This is harsh, isn't it? It's brutal. All right, we've got John McClellich. John, looks like John's in the room.
He's there.
Awesome,
Amazing.
Excellent. All right, John, you have won that hosting as well, so we'll organise to get your details and hook you up with Nick tomorrow as well too. All right, so remember the replay of this is on YouTube, the YouTube channel, Smash Go YouTube channel. It'll be there tomorrow. The link is in chat, so you can grab it there. If you want to know more about WordPress as well, the WordPress meetups throughout the country have actually promoted this event tonight as well too. But there are local groups all around Australia and New Zealand, in fact, all throughout the world, and they have free meetups. So if you've got a WordPress site, you want to learn some more, or you need to get some advice or whatever, there are a heap of WordPress sites. So you just need to go to wpaustralia.org. That link is in chat, and they have all of the groups that are in Australia and New Zealand in that. Even though it says WP Australia, it's Australia and New Zealand. Or if you do have a WordPress website, if you have a look at your dashboard when you first log in, there's an area there for meetups, and you'll see that you can find a meetup near you. It's just one of the informational panels that's in your dashboard when you've logged into WordPress. And so you can click on that and invite. They're free to go to, very welcoming. There are a lot of online ones at the moment because we haven't been able to meet in person, but some of the offline ones are starting to start up as well too. All right, so have I got everything? If you've enjoyed tonight and you want to find out a wee bit more about it, or you want to come to other sessions, these are held every single week. We have awesome guest speakers like Corey, who is here tonight. And so we have a different speaker each night. You can join the Facebook group, the Business Owners Smashing Online Facebook group. Go and join that. That's where we have all of the announcements of the topics and the events that are coming up. And again, that link is in chat as well too. And the session for next week actually is interesting too. It's all about TikTok. So if you wondered about the social media platform called TikTok, it definitely is one to watch, because the person that's going to be talking about this, our guest speaker, she is a Facebook specialist. She runs ads for sort of companies on Facebook, and they are moving over to TikTok because there are a heap of opportunities over there that are just totally untapped. Advertising is insanely competitive in terms of being very cheap as well. You're getting sort of as good as or better bang for buck as well. So if you think it's just a video channel for young people, it's not. There's some businesses out there making some really good inroads with that marketing on TikTok as well. You don't need to be a star or a movie star or anything like that. There are ways of using TikTok to do it. So come along next week to find out about how you can use TikTok in your business. So that's a wrap for tonight. Let's give Corey a big round of applause for sharing all of that with us tonight. And remember, it's on YouTube, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Go and have a great night, and we'll catch you again. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Business Owners Smashing It Online podcast. You can also find me on social media and online. Just search for Business Owners Smashing It Online and Nick Cree, spelled Nikree, all one word. If you like this and want to hear more, subscribe now. Until next time, don't be a slave to your business. Get your business working for you.